there are two little fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way. And the one nods at them, and the older fish nods at them, and he says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" And the two younger fish swim by and carry on swimming, and they eventually look at each other and go, "Well, what the hell is water?" Right? And the message of what David Wallace Foster shares with us is sometimes the most obvious realities are the hardest to see. And Naomi, when you and I initially had this discussion, we were like, we need to tell, how do we get this out there? We want to share this. And I know that, you also came up with a conversation and said, no, that people need to know, right? So what was your point at that point, Naomi?
I just think LMI is the best kept secret in South Africa. And then we actually extended it to say it's actually the best kept secret in Africa. And when we deal with new people and we see new customers or new clients, LMI is quite new to them. And it's almost like they've never heard of this. And I've always been saying, when I did my first course way back, it was like, why don't I know about this? And why doesn't the whole world know about this? This is freaking amazing stuff, So I think that's where my starting point was from, is we got to tell people what we do and what's available in the market.
Absolutely. Greg, and what, from your perspective, what was your intention? Because, we had this discussion with you and we were like, Greg, we have to do this. And you were like, yeah, let's do it. So what did you want to achieve out of putting this together?
Well, I think I came up with the idea of breaking out of COVID. And we sort of linked the images of everything we're doing to that very famous show, Prison Break. And Prison Break was all about a physical prison and people being imprisoned in a physical way. But I think what happens when you deal with a recessionary pandemic is that where there's a lockdown involved, you actually become prisoners of your own thoughts and your own mind. So, the way forward is to understand that over that period, all sorts of new habits formed and new ways of seeing the world formed, and they became embedded in our thinking. So, COVID and the pandemic and where we are right now requires us to move forward. And I don't know, it's a bit like quicksand. If you're stuck in quicksand, you can't push yourself out. You've got to pull yourself out. So the story around how do you actually avoid the quicksand of negative thinking, negative media, negative experiences is to actually find a way to pull yourself out of the quicksand. And pulling yourself out of the quicksand talks to the core of everything we do. It's about goal setting. So if you want to put COVID behind you, you've got to put goals in front of you. It's the only way. So, this is just amazing. So, and if you put goals in front of you that aren't exciting and they're not big enough to pull you out of where you are, you're going to stay where you are. So I think it's a leader's responsibility. If you're a leader, and we're all leaders in our lives in some way. We're family leaders, we're leaders in our communities, we're leaders in our businesses. We have to take the stand. We have to actually say, these are the goals that we're going to chase. These are the big things in our lives that we are working forward towards. And that will allow us to shake off the quicksand faster and to progress and make a valuable contribution to our businesses and to our families and to our society. So that, for me, is, if anything, I wanted to come across to people that they have this huge opportunity to reset their goals and pull themselves out of this quagmire of where we've been for the past 18 months. Does that make sense?
I love that, Greg, and thank you for showing us and giving us that preface of why breaking out of COVID is the metaphor to that.